This summer, the Executive Next Practices Forum held a special summit with the National Association of Corporate Directors in San Diego to talk about emerging trends between the C-suite and the board of directors. At that session, we talked about alignment, we talked about ROI, we talked about emerging trends in board dynamics. Among our speakers were Dr. Larry Taylor of the National Association of Corporate Directors and John Zappel, the author of the Game Changing Advisory Board, a new book that's just out. Larry, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Quite simply, because of the issues you mentioned, alignment, regulatory pressure, but most importantly, what we see is a potential 40% increase in organizational performance if the board is properly equipped to act in alignment with the company's culture and objectives.
Interesting. Larry, tell me how you're seeing boards. What are the different types of boards you're seeing now? What are the characteristics?
Well, over the years, there's been about three types of boards. The first one is the complacent board. That was the imperial CEO who brought on his buddies onto the board, and they totally failed in their fiduciary responsibility, and it cost the stakeholders, all of us, billions of dollars. The next phase after Enron and so forth was the compliance board, which focuses on regulatory compliance and shareholder value for a few, often neglecting the building the company value for all. Now, the latest new trend, the emerging trend, is the value-creating board. And the value-creating board is looking out for the long-term value of the company and major stakeholders. They focus on innovative strategies, performance, accountability, alignment, all of this from the board all the way down to the loading dock.
That's interesting. And I've heard you talk about the fact that this board alignment can add as much as a 40% improvement in performance to an overall organization if you have alignment right. I know that under Executive Next Practices, we offer this NextWorks program that is, in fact, the board to dock alignment. Can you tell me a little bit about that process, the board to dock process?
Well, it's taking the concepts from the value-creating board and applying them in a very practical way, and it starts with an assessment. And the assessment is mainly driven by what the directors and the executives and the stakeholders want in terms of building long-term value. So we do the assessment, we pinpoint certain areas, and then we put them on a 90-day program of incremental 90 days, where we have an alignment mapping system that we also can track the results, so everybody is held accountable and everybody moves together to reach those objectives.
Boy, that's interesting. Well, let's take a look now at a clip from the event itself that was held in San Diego recently.
The objective here for me is to make sure that when we have this interaction, you and I talking about question and answers, I wanted to make sure everybody in the room came from the same baseline perspective. We all had at least a baseline of how that industry works.
And most of these small boards that you have and you start out with are comprised of senior executives who have experience and judgment and like to be on advisory boards. They come with a lot of passion, a lot of care, and really want to get involved in running the business.
It's coming in with applied authority from the money, okay? The most powerful thing when you're doing this is to track the money, okay? You track the money, the private equity, like with Dave, the donors. What power does the money have in affecting what goes on in the boardroom?
Larry, thanks again for joining us today to share your insights from this recent event. We would invite anybody that sits on a board, is an advisor to boards, or has a real interest in improving board performance to join us at one of our private sessions to talk about how we can elevate the effectiveness of your own board of directors. We look forward to hearing from you soon.